The best a man can get.
Welcome back to First Things First. We're now joined by Pro Bowl linebacker Bart Scott. Always a good time when Bart's here. What's up, Bart?
Can't complain.
Don't complain.
You tried to destroy my show last Friday. You were in. I wasn't in here to keep you under control. You and Campy, you need a traffic cop. Y'all act like y'all on the radio or something, just sitting going back and forth. Yeah.
I'm just living my best life. See, just living my best life.
She was sending notes from afar.
Go. You definitely.
Bart, Pro Football Focus released their power rankings, the top teams. And when they did it, they found Drew Brees and the Saints coming out #1, followed by the Chiefs, Rams, Pats, and Chargers. Bart, you buying the Saints as the best team in the NFL today?
You can sell me that real estate, but I don't know if I want to buy it. They haven't looked the same, but what I do like about the Saints is their versatility. They're the most complete team, or one of the most complete teams. So I want to see how this Chiefs defense looks when Eric Berry comes back, because he's a guy that can make impact. But, you know, the Saints can win a phone booth game. We saw last week the Rams couldn't win a physical game. I know the Saints can win a physical game. They can get ugly and muddy it up with Kamara and with Ingram in between the tackles, and they're good at stopping the run. You know, but these Bears and these Colts are two teams that I'm buying stock in, because I just love the way they play. I love defensively how the Bears can, shorten the game, and they can run the ball, and they can come up with enough creative plays on offense to be successful. You know, I'm always buying defense.
You're talking so the Pro Football Focus's top 5 went Saints, Chiefs, Rams, Patriots, Chargers. And so you're looking outside of the top 5 teams that you think could potentially make a Super Bowl, could make noise in the playoffs. And to answer your question, Jenna, as far as the best team in football, you can make a case for the Saints. Saints, Chiefs, Rams are obviously the 3 highest scoring offenses in football. The Saints are the only one of those 3 with a top 10 defense.
Despite the way they played the last 2 weeks.
Absolutely. And last week, I don't want to underrate what they did last week against the Bucs. That's a team that had beaten them, that was dominating them through the first 2+ quarters of the game, and then the Saints scored 25 straight to win that game. So while they were underwhelming in the first half of that game, they played really well in the second half of that game. I don't think there's a clear, definitive best team in the league. If the Chiefs win tonight, everyone's going to say they're the best team in the league. If they lose, they'll be dropped to 3rd. But what is interesting to me is what Bart was getting at, which is teams outside of the top 5 that could be dangerous. The Bears are really interesting to me, because we have seen teams with that type of makeup, if they can just get competent quarterback play, because they have enough weapons, that defense is tremendous, that team, and we saw them choke out the Los Angeles Rams. So they're a team that I might have in that top tier that right now is not there.
Yeah. I'm not as concerned about the Saints as some of the other teams at the top. You know, if you ask me, I'd much rather have the Saints defense than any of the other top defenses. And if I take that defense with Sean Payton as a play caller going against them other defenses, that's the combination I'm going to take. Forget about the quarterback. Forget about how they run their offense and have balance. Sean Payton, if you put him in the postseason game against that Kansas City defense, oh, man, they're going to rip that defense apart. That defense is not good. So that's a huge advantage that I see, and I believe that some of the holes that Kansas City have on the offensive side, but because the Saints, they're going to make them one-dimensional. Kansas City not getting any running backs.
Right.
You know, so how are they going to manufacture some type of running game? I don't believe, regardless of what Nick says, if they win tonight, they're the best team. The most consistent team throughout the season has been the Saints. And why? Because they can win a number of different ways, and you trust their defense in a big spot more than the other teams.
But the team that I'm going to elevate to #2 is the Chargers, because they can establish the run. They have a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback that can get hot, that can give you explosive plays. But I love how they can go after the passer with the outside pass rushers. And this Derwin James kid, if you guys haven't paid attention to him, he's Cam Chancellor mixed with Earl Thomas, because he can play at that line of scrimmage, but he has some veteran moves. You know, when he intercepted,
he's the closest I've seen to Sean Taylor that has that body type.
Exactly.
Since Sean Taylor, we lost him. Skills in the middle of the field, great tackling ability, and still something we don't see. He provides that intimidation.
Right.
Now, I can see why you said the Cam Chancellor part of that.
Yeah, because, you know, he also can get off the hashes. See, Cam couldn't get off the hashes. Cam would come down and he was an insert safety. This guy can close the hashes. He can play the middle third, but he makes you make decisions. His tackles are are violent. And we always should say big hits and turnovers change games, right? So big hits can energize your offense, your defense, but also that makes guys understand that they got to pay $200 before they pass go. And what we saw last week was the intimidation factor, right? Because in the playoffs, those shoulder pads stiffen up. Things move a little faster, and teams get anxious when you can shorten the game and shorten the possessions.
Bart is right. When you get that 4-game window of games you're breaking down, when you start to prepare, you go out the last 4 games. Now, you can get other games that you can look at, but that is the typical NFL study. We're going to study the last 4 games, and let me tell you something. When you see that screen and you see a guy on the defender, he knocks someone on the offense off the screen, you know what you do? Hit rewind. What number was that guy? Okay, what coverage were they in? And you start to send messages 3-4 weeks out. So Derwin James has done that. That's a great pickup by Bart.
I think the Chargers are in the argument for most talented, best team in the league. I agree with you there. They started 1-2. Since then, they are 10-1. They're 9-1. Pardon me. So they have played as well over the last 10 games as any team in the league. What I think kills them as far as realistic chance at making the Super Bowl is even if they win tonight, they still will not be in first place in their division. So they are in a position where they will almost assuredly, to get to the Super Bowl, have to win 3 road playoff games. Like, that's the part where the way the NFL playoffs work, they're just in bad luck that the only team with a better record than them is in their division. And even if they win tonight, they don't have the tiebreaker. If they end up overtaking the Chiefs, if they win tonight and then Kansas City stumbles against Seattle and they go from having to play 3 road playoff games to being the 1 or the 2 seed, then not only do I think they're in the discussion, I think they become the favorites in the AFC in that spot. But I just think if they have to be the wild card, that road is far too difficult.
I love that road. That's the road I've taken. And that road is better. I hate it. I hate it having to bye. Because if you play a good team coming off a bye and they jump on you early, it's over. See, what happens is that when you have to play that wild card, you're in playoff mode already. And if you're close to being healthy and you don't sustain any big-time injuries, you have the advantage. We've seen the Green Bay Packers come in as the wild card and win the championship. We've seen the New York Giants come in and win the championship.
And we've also seen the same evidence as far as those 1 and 2 seeds sleepwalking after having that bye.
I mean, when we walked into New England, they were sleepwalking. We jumped on them, and they didn't know what to expect. Because what happens is it's natural, right? You don't know what to do that week, and you come off flat. We see this sometimes when teams come off byes, and they kind of have to figure it out. Yeah. And if you sleepwalk early in a half in a playoff game, it can be over with.
But we also know that since the NFL went to this playoff format, the teams with a bye more than 30% of the time make the Super Bowl, and teams without a bye, it's less than 8% of the time. So while there are examples, and I understand particularly on teams that are maybe defensive focused, why if you are a little rusty and a team does jump out 7-0, it could put you in a rougher spot. I think in general, it is far better to have 1 fewer playoff game to play and to have the home field advantage guaranteed, at least in the first playoff game, if not in both of them, than to have the wild card route.
Quickly before we go to break, is there anything about this Saints team that worries you?
I mean, I think they're the most well-rounded team in football. I think these guys, they can run the ball, they can pass the ball, and their defense isn't great, but it's not, the Rams have the 18th ranked defense.
They take the run away from you. People can say, oh, the numbers are distorted and everything. Oh, okay. Well, we're at the end of the season, they're still #1 against the rush.
Yep.
And that is going to help in the playoff. These teams don't have a running game. Watch out. We've seen November, December, the game changes. You don't have a running game in the playoffs, you're going to be out of the playoffs.
And they're the only team in this list, other than the Patriots, that has legitimate playoff and Super Bowl experience from the coach and the quarterback.
Sure.
Like, for all those reasons, that I totally understand why people would say they're the best team in football.
Watch out for Dallas. Dallas is scary, too. And they showed you the blueprint of how to beat the Saints. Limiting the possessions, running the ball, and being able to play good enough defense that they can keep you out of the end zone.
I like this segment. It was just why teams are good. That was my favorite segment so far. Bart, stick around. Coming up, what will it take for the Steelers to beat the Patriots? That's next on First Things First.
You got nowhere to go.
Nowhere. I'm a nomad.